figure it out.
It says being live streamed.
Yeah.
Got
Got it.
Okay. All right. Good evening, everyone. This is the January 19th, 2022 meeting of the Multimodal Transportation Commission. We'll begin our meeting by doing a roll call. Donna, take it away.
All right, Mr. Chad Carwin.
Present.
Mr. Bob Edwards, I'm sorry.
I'm present.
Mr. Hunter Payton. Miss Dion Evans.
Present.
Mr. Daniel Hemme.
Present.
Miss Dee Dinsdale. Mr. Andrew Denton.
Present.
Mr. Trey Smith. Miss Arsena Dixon.
Present.
All right, don't forget, if you're not speaking, to please mute your microphone. If your picture is not shown, please make sure that you announce your name when speaking. We have a quorum.
All right. Thank you for that reminder, Donna. Yeah, again, just if you're not on video, please say your name before you make a point, during the call. The next thing is to approve the November 17th, 2021 minutes. And I took a look at them today. They looked fine to me. Can I get a motion to approve those minutes, please?
So moved.
A second? I'll second it. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Dion Evans, aye.
Andrew?
Yeah, Andrew, aye.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we've approved the November 17th minutes. That was not our last meeting. That was our last regularly scheduled meeting. We also need to approve the December 8th, 2021 special meeting minutes. And just as a reminder, that's where we discussed the ARPA funds and a recommendation letter to City Council, which we met, we did some edits and we approved, and I appreciate the edits of the minutes for that clarified that we were making recommendations on how the city should spend the money rather than requesting funds for our commission to spend the ARPA fund. So can I get a motion to approve the December 8th special meeting minutes?
So moved.
Dion Evans, second.
All right, Dion Evans, second. All in favor? Chad, aye.
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 Andrew, did you have a chance to look at those?
I did. I was not at that meeting, so I don't know if those minutes are correct or not. So they're
Okay,
fine for me. But
that makes sense. I think we got 4 or 5, so I think we're good on that too. All right. Before we go on to new business, and I don't know if this is appropriate according to Robert's rules or not, but we don't have a section on here for announcements. But I would like to make a couple of announcements personally before we go into new business. First and foremost, I'd like to welcome our new member to the commission, the Multimodal Transportation Commission, Ms. Arsena Dixon. Welcome. If you would like to just briefly introduce yourself and sort of why you're interested in joining the commission, we'd love to learn more about you.
Hello, my name is Arsena Dixon. Some of y'all may indirectly know me. I am the spouse to Ferris Dixon. I am currently a double master's majors at ECU. I do have a bachelor's of science in criminal justice and a paralegal. I'm just kind of seeing how things move around in the county, in having worked with mental health developmentally disabled people, transportation and being able to move around has always been a big issue and concern. So in order to learn the ins and outs, the nuances, I just felt like it would be appropriate to, join this board and possibly see why, some buses only go to a certain point and not through other areas.
Excellent. Thank you very much. What are you studying? Dual master's degrees. I did that myself. It's no easy task. What are you studying?
Master's in business administration and a master's in adult education.
Excellent. Well, welcome to the commission, and we're really glad to have you on board. And I think that you bring just a very much needed perspective to the work that we're trying to do on here. So thank you for your public service, and welcome to the team.
Thank you.
Yeah, so the other announcement that I wanted to make was, bye Ryan, we're gonna miss you. Best of luck. I wanted that to be on public record. Ryan has got some big plans in the works, and he's gonna continue advancing his career, and we're really excited for him. We're sad to see you go. It was great working with you over the past couple of years. And hopefully you won't, like I said in the email, forget about little old Greenville here when you get to the big times, man, because we need people thinking about, some areas like ourselves here in terms of federal funding and stuff like that. So best of luck, man.
Thank you very much, Chad. Very kind words, man. It's been a pleasure working with this commission. Definitely a unique start to it with a newly formed commission, coronavirus. Never met any of you guys physically or personally, none of that. Just Zoom.
Wild.
You know what? Really wild. But this is our new normal, and I think we're redefining normalcy. And I think I was happy that we can do it together as a commission. And I think there's a lot of potential with this commission. I'm excited for what you guys have to bring to the table each time we speak. So once again, thanks for the kind words. It's been a pleasure, and I won't forget Greenville. You guys don't forget about me either. So.
Well, thanks for getting us through some tough times, man, with the merging, the reorganization, new members, and scheduling meetings with a combined group. And like you said, everything being remote. We couldn't have done it without you, simply put.
So like it goes both ways, man. I appreciate the support and the cooperation. It means a lot.
Yeah. All right. Well, I'm going to toss it right back to you. Our first item of new business is, I'm sorry, did anyone else have any announcements that they would like to make? I didn't mean to just move on. All right, seeing none. The first item of new business is the Integrated Mobility and Enhancement Plan. So Ryan, can you give us an update on that, please?
Yeah, I'll take it away from here. The first update is the contact person for this plan. I was serving as the city's project manager for the plan upon my departure. Your main contact will be the Director of Public Works, Kevin Mulligan. He'll be your contact for that plan until further notice, and he'll work around it. And Ellie has played a huge role as well, supporting with the plan. So they'll probably be able to give updates as time goes on. We had a meeting today. A brief meeting with the consultant team. At this point, they're tabulating data from the surveys that went out. So the public engagement piece, they're just kind of going through that data, tabulating some of the results. I think they should be getting those results shortly. I think our what's his name, Jordan from Public Works, he's our communication specialist. He was kind enough to help us through conducting that survey and building it. So he's going to send that data over to the consultant team, and they'll get to go through that and from there analyze that data and come up with some I won't say recommendations yet, but trying to get a good feel for what the community and how they view mobility and transit across Greenville. So really, that's where the plan's at this point. Over the next 2 months or so, the next steps will be most likely. I made sure to tell the team, the consultant team, to really dive in a little bit more on the integration portion, looking at solutions, working with ECU. Solutions working with Pitt Area Transit. How do we coordinate some systems? You know, we use the word coordinate before using consolidate. And also integrating the mobility aspect of it, right? Active mobility as pedestrian and cyclists. That's a critical portion to this plan. So we want to make sure that we are doing what the plan says, integrated mobility. You don't want to lose sight of that and just have it to be a transit focused, you know, fixed route bus. You want to make sure that we're integrating all modes and all ways of mobility across Greenville. That's the intention of the plan. So we went over some of the existing conditions, assessments. I think I won't be here for the next meeting in March, but I believe in that meeting, an update, probably a larger update where they'll have possibly like preliminary recommendations, things of that nature, because you get a little bit closer after a lot of the data has been, you know, compiled and researched on. So that's where I'm at for that one. So be happy to take questions.
Yeah, let's have the floor. Anybody have any questions, comments, anything?
I always have questions.
Yeah, go for it, Dave.
So Ryan, thanks for that update. I know this is sort of in that middle phase of the project. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, not necessarily a lot to update on. I'm curious though, you know, given that they've gone through some of that existing conditions, some of that initial technical analyses, and are sort of focusing on wrapping up that engagement. What were some of the key takeaways? Maybe that's not necessarily the right way to put it, but what were some of the sort of the key findings or the key takeaways out of that existing conditions analysis?
Yeah, that's a good question, Dan. Some of those key takeaways that I came across and that the consultant team came across were trying to improve the efficiencies of the routes. These 6 routes around the city. They realized that some of the routes can be a bit more efficient. Looking at some of the transit deserts or the areas that are underserved with mobility. I think that fire towers are an area we can easily, you know, point to, and then some areas north of the Tar River. Those are some takeaways. Service time, as far as like service hours of service, that was something that we talked about. Right now, we're running kind of a modified service still due to the pandemic and just staffing issues with the pandemic. I mean, it's tough. This pandemic has not been easy on anyone, but especially in transportation. So our hours have been modified, but you know, when we go back to what we redefine as full service, how do we redefine that? What does it look like? Does it look like, you know, 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. or, you know, so looking at service hours and finding what works for the area that we're in. I'm trying to think what else. There's just some conditions. Elliot, feel free to jump in if you think of anything that I'm missing from our discussion of this conditions.
Was there any? Let me sort of interrupt, if maybe just to kind of throw another sort of thought in there for both of you. Was there any intention? I know one of the big issues, or not issues, maybe one of the big interests, both from state and federal agencies, kind of the buzzword, if you will, in transit, is around trying to improve accessibility to workforce right now. Whether that's, you know, just increasing access to where employers live, or more directly connecting employees to where they're trying to get to. Was there any portion of the analysis that was devoted to, or maybe any findings related to sort of workforce related transit, or maybe any barriers that are presented from that?
I think a lot of that came from the areas north of the river where a lot of the larger companies are, especially the North Carolina DMV is up there. That was we talked about, I think, earlier, was looking at ways of how do we maybe integrate micromobility into that. I spoke about first mile, last mile issues within the city, and that's just not with Greenville. A lot of places have that issue. Getting to the bus stop. How do we get to the bus stop, right? That's tough enough. It's hard enough to get to the bus stop. So, but yeah, workforce was something that we talked about mainly in the less dense areas of the city, which would be your North Tar River area.
Okay. Great. I'm looking forward to hearing about these that first round of recommendations when they come out.
Yeah. definitely.
Anyone else, other questions, comments for Ryan about the integrated mobility and enhancement plan? All right, well, thank you for that update, Ryan. The next item is the Guampo update from Elliot.
And hi, good afternoon.
I should spell that out. Greenville Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, right?
Very close. There's
Very
an
close.
urban
I knew I was
subword.
like off by a word or.
Greenville Urban Area MPO, Greenville Urban Area Metropolitan Planning Organization.
Okay.
So the tying into what Ryan was saying about system conditions, we got a lot of data, but we are hoping to get to share that once they finish the making the tweaks that we requested. It was interesting to see the commuter flow and see where the no cars population was located. That was very interesting to think about and see how can then we address those areas, and that is something that I think it caught my attention, and I think we could use it moving forward.
If I can jump in real quick, Elliot,
Yeah.
I'm sorry, I got kind of excited about that because yes, that was a part that I forgot. That was cool. Seeing where people are coming from and where they're going. Okay, Raleigh, we all know, but folks coming from Durham as well. Didn't know that. Now, the Raleigh trip, we all know Raleigh to Greenville, 90 minutes. We got that. But Durham, it's like an extra 45 with no traffic. You know what I mean? 540, yeah. So Durham was a hot spot. Some of the hot spots. Durham, Wake County, Greene County was, of course, your regular Greene, Wilson, Lenore, Kinston. But we had one finding was Charlotte. We talked about Charlotte. That was one of them, but I don't know how that. We talked about that in our plan. It's like, oh, Charlotte, that was interesting. So we were trying to figure out, was that like airplane travel or was so? That was an interesting finding that we saw that that was noted, like Mecklenburg County to Pitt County. Wasn't a ton of people.
Chad, can I follow up with one real fast question there? Is that coming out of survey data or?
I was
are you,
just
like,
getting
what's-
ready to ask that.
Because I know there's like
survey.
streetlight and location-based data. Is AECOM using, is the sort of the planning team, are they looking at like cell phone or location-based data? Is this just survey data?
I think that could be pings. I don't think it's survey data because. Well, Ellie, go ahead. Ellie, you got something to say?
Well, at least they told us that it was coming from surveys, which I was maybe a skeptic.
Not the survey that we created. So it's not the Greenville survey. Like I think some of it's cell phone ping and like other survey data overall, but not the survey that was distributed to the one that I sent to you guys. Not that. Yeah. But I just thought that was interesting. And then just seeing how Greenville is that hub of Eastern North Carolina and really just explodes out. The first thing that comes to my mind is like, oh, park and ride, right? Commuter. I was on a commuter study 2-3 years ago with the commissioner of DMV, and it was a big push because DMV is moving from Raleigh to Rocky Mount, and so I got put on this task force, and we were just trying to create like a commuter thing on 264. And or 64, that is, I should say.
Something to consider then, and I don't want to belabor this point because I know it was already an interruption. Something to consider then, maybe passing on to AECOM. It was the town of Nightdale actually back in 2004 actually commissioned the commuter rail feasibility study from Raleigh Union Station out. I basically just looking from a regional standpoint, was commuter rail, was passenger rail something that was even remotely feasible for sort of East Raleigh and Eastern Wake County. The firm that did the study, that conducted the study, examined it all the way out to Wilson and actually found that it was feasible and was cost competitive with just widening the highways all the way out as far as Wilson with, I think it was 60-minute headway, essentially peak hour service, right? So running a commuter rail from Wilson on the hour, every hour in the morning and out in the afternoon. that sat still for a while, almost like a good decade. And it's been revived with the conversation about the Fayetteville Raleigh commuter rail and some of the high-speed rail now that the state has acquired all of the S line between here and Richmond. And so the rail conversation is kind of being revived right now. And in fact, actually, Campo in their the Northeast Area Study, they just did an update to the Northeast Area Study. It's actually one of their recommendations. Two recommendations competing with each other. One is if it's not feasible, build a rail trail all the way out to Wilson. But if it was feasible, was to actually take the steps forward towards implementing commuter rail or passenger rail through that NEAS study area with the intention that it goes all the way out to Wilson. So something that AECOM might want to look at would be connecting into or exploring the feasibility of a commuter rail line into Raleigh. Because I think it's Coastal Carolina Railroad. I think it's like CLNA owns the line from here, has the operator's rights from Greenville into Raleigh on that same track to Wilson.
And do you remember
that just got really technical for a minute, guys? Sorry.
You're good. I'm with you.
That's fine. That's great. Do you remember the year where
the East Trans? I can email it to you offline. The year for the study was 2004. But it's been revived as I was like 2008, they did a follow-up on it. And then literally last year out of the blue, it came up and Campo incorporated those findings into the Northeast Area Study update. If you go to the Campo website, it's one of their small area studies. So I say that because I was part of the team that helped put that plan together, but I think it's something that's worthy of exploring. If that is going to become something, then it might be worthy of exploring.
It's incredibly worthy of exploring, of course, because we have a GK Butterfield is supposed to be a multimodal facility, and there's Greenville is full of railroads, it's full of rail in this area. Eastern Carolina is full of rail, but it's not passenger rail. So that it's been talked about. I was part of meetings years ago at NCDOT with the S line and a bunch of things. It's sometimes, Dan, like you said, these discussions get on the table for decades at a time. So when they get kind of warm back up, it's important to capitalize on some of that momentum. So I totally agree with what you're saying.
Yeah.
Well, Charlotte Greenville to Charlotte was a recurring trip. I've never flown anywhere besides from Greenville to Charlotte out of Greenville. I mean, that's the only option. So I could see that would be like pinging again and again and again if it was
possibly. I think that's probably what happened, but I just thought it was really funny because we pulled the map up and I was like, that looks weird. That's the flight path. So
Elliot, we totally derailed your update.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry about that, dude. You know what? I'm gonna go on mute.
Get it? But all right, go ahead.
That's fine because I was actually going to say that we don't have any significant update actually for the MPO. Many things are ongoing, and we interestingly enough touch indirectly to one of the things that we're working on, looking at options for feasibility studies for passenger rail. We received the P6 that I remember. I don't know if you guys remember, the commission remember, but we give an update of the prioritization process being canceled. So we finally have the results of the scoring for these projects, and we haven't been able to even talk with DOT about those yet. But those are strictly be used for planning. Among them actually was the passenger rail route from I think it was following one of our plans, one plan that we were citing and building a new station here. As I said, there's no funding on this prioritization cycle, so this is just merely just a test of how much they're going to score. No surprise, they didn't score well. So I could share, I could send that. I could share if you will be interested. The DOT prepared a map, so you could actually go and see our projects all together, and you could actually see the scoring of them. That gives you an idea of how we fare on that cycle. Of course, by next cycle, they might change, or they will change the scoring criteria. So always keep that in mind. That's all, unless anybody has any questions.
I don't have any questions. I don't know that, I know we have a meeting next Monday for the Pitt County transportation plan. It's not on the agenda, but if you wanted to throw anything in there about.
Oh yeah, we have in our latest discussions within the Pitt County Comprehensive Transportation Plan that covers the whole, encompass all the county. We have been looking into the bike path recommendations. They have made further changes to our recommendations, and we finally also have the GIS, or information of all the grocery stores. I think we were not working with that layer when we were tweaking the active transportation plan. So the next step will be actually looking at the grocery stores and seeing how else we could improve the recommendations so they could be included in the comprehensive transportation plan, and later on we could all adopt it in the active transportation plan.
And I think that this would be something, again, this isn't on the agenda, but this would be something that I feel like Arsena might be interested in terms of, did we not include health facilities on that plan as well? From
Yes.
a county perspective.
Yes, I think we had, but we are pulling it, of course, from the database that NCDOT has. So there's always that caveat that the GIS information, or the information that they shared, you have to look at it and see if there's something missing,
right,
and then add it to it. I'm always, within those meetings, I'm always also thinking of, if it's missing on the information that they're pulling, I will have to contact another division to let them know that there's information missing, and then send that information.
Right. I don't know how we could possibly loop her in, but I feel like this would be something that she could help us out with on that, given your experience, expertise, and interests involving mobility and mental health and public transit and stuff like that. So
I was thinking, actually, that great that you mentioned that. I was thinking of the benefits of having an online mapping tool with all these recommendations. They are draft recommendations, and these are priority locations that we have been discussing within the subcommittee. It was going to be for internal review and some within the subcommittee, but I could share with the commission. And that way you could just click the link, and then you will see the map, and you will see all these locations and you could click on them, and they will tell you information what they are about. And also you will see the bike path recommendations. At the county level, you have to zoom in to get to Greenville, of course.
Well, and it's funny you're talking about zooming in, because the latest map update that was sent out was just a PDF rather than the link. I didn't get the link to the GIS. And when you zoom in on that PDF, it's basically just gray and green brown and green lines, just like forming a blob over like uptown Greenville. Like there was, the lines didn't get thinner the more I zoomed in. Maybe it was a problem I was having with the PDF, but that map was just not helpful in that format, at all.
Yeah, that's the challenges of the scale of the recommendations with the GIS setup. I think the best way is to do an online mapping for this.
Yeah.
Like we did with the active transportation plan.
Right.
So I might go ahead and share it with you all. And that way, if there's any recommendations, just send an email to me, and we will take a look and consider it to be included.
And really, it's just like address, general description of service provided, information like that, things that aren't on the map, where we're identifying gaps and stuff.
Yeah, or recommendations of facilities. Like if you recognize there's a destination, there's facilities missing on that route, the map will also have what we have existing, and we will have what we have proposed. So if there's no proposed, then I highly recommend to send an email saying, like, please add this route to the as proposed pedestrian facility. And that way we will keep a log of all the recommendations.
Excellent. All right. Any other questions, comments, discussion on the update we just received from Elliot?
Not a question, just an observation. I would encourage everybody to go check out those prioritization projects, not so much to try and figure out whether or not they're going to get constructed or not, because they get assigned a point score and those point scores get compared with a good 6,000 other projects across like statewide impact, regional impact, divisional impact. It's a nightmare to try and figure out. There's like 2 people in the state that understand it. But I would encourage you to go and take a look at it. It's on the NCDOT website. If you Google P6.0 NCDOT, the first link will take you to the landing page for the prioritization process. And just take a look at what the city has offered up and programmed, because I think there's a lot in there that we should be excited about as a multimodal transportation commission. You'll have to zoom in on Greenville. Everything is bright pink, so you have to click on things to figure out everything that's there. But 2 things of note: virtually every roadway project that is on the map calls for bicycle and pedestrian facilities to be included as part of like in furtherance of the city's Complete Streets initiative. Now the city has prepared, if not necessarily adopted, a Complete Streets policy. But the DOT will, if that policy exists, they will, to all extents feasible, attempt to incorporate those facilities in accordance with that policy. So the fact that this is incorporated in the plans for these projects, whether they're at the design stage or the construction stage, is incredibly important. This is something that as a county, as a city, we didn't do for several decades. And so when you ask why we maybe don't have these things, it's because it's very difficult to get them constructed, designed, and built here in Greenville. So the fact that they are in this system matters. Now that score there gives you sort of a relative idea of when they might be built. And again, don't try and figure out the scores. Some of them look like they score really lowly. Some of them score really highly. That doesn't actually matter until you get into the sort of the tiering that's there. But I like seeing that there's new greenways that are proposed. I see improvements to 14th Street, which is a really critical east-west connector, something that we don't have a lot of east-west facilities in Greenville outside of the Greenway. But there's a lot of good to be had there. So again, encourage everyone to go actually take a look at it. I wish we had the chat box here. I'd put the URL in there myself for it. But there's a lot to like.
And this is Elliot. I'm preparing the email and I will just share the link with you all. That way, if you have any questions or comments, you could reach out to me by email or by the next meeting.
Chad, you're on mute.
My bad. It didn't look like there was any more comments or concerns or suggestions about that. So we'll go on to the next new business item, which is the, it's not what it says on the agenda. It's the American Rescue Plan, something funds. I have it right here. American Rescue Plan Act appropriation. And just a little bit of background, like we submitted the letter of recommendation to City Council and the mayor shortly, the next day after our December 8th special meeting. And there was a period of time when the city's webpage discussing the appropriations or the planned appropriations for the $31.34 million in local fiscal recovery funds were how they were going to be spent. And that website is now back up again. And I'm comparing it to an older news article about how it was going to be spent. And I don't see really any major change. I don't see any changes, to be honest with you. But that site was down for a period of time. And I thought that maybe they were taking the input from various community groups and then sort of revisiting it. But one thing that I didn't see before that I see on here now, it just underneath a YouTube presentation about this funding, it says this survey has been closed. But I don't remember getting a link about a survey about it. I wanted to just see if there were any updates. Is there a new list of proposed projects for this $34 or $31.34 million? are we still kind of waiting on that? Do we have any idea what the next steps are in terms of how the city plans to spend this funding?
I have no idea.
No,
Mm-mm.
I haven't really heard much chatter from other groups that were, the reason I requested the change in the minutes was because there are some groups that were asking for money, like give this nonprofit, give this organization money to spend, from that bank of funds. But I haven't really heard much. I haven't heard anything about it. I'm glad we got our recommendations in. I hope that they were received and viewed, and made available to all the council members. But I'm just wondering what the latest is. So we might have to table this for the next meeting, the meeting in March, if we don't have any new information on that.
Yeah, I haven't heard anything new on that at all.
Okay. All right. Well, that makes that discussion pretty quick. I guess we're done with that one. There was something that came to mind. Oh, and again, this is probably not the correct way of going about this, but I did have a meeting today. There's a planning student that would like to update the ECU campus bicycle and pedestrian plan as his senior capstone. And so, I might be able to tap him into some resources. I've already reached out to Dan about it, and possibly, Elliot, but anybody else that, and I'm thinking Bob Edwards, I know that you're a bike commuter as much as you can be, but I'd like to put him in touch with other individuals that, may be able to weigh in on some things. So if you get an email from me introducing you to a student, that's what that's about. And I should have mentioned that earlier under the announcements section. But I'm excited about that because our last plan was 2013. So it's almost a decade old and is in dire need of updating. And I think that it'll be a great opportunity for a student to get that experience and have that be something that he can put in his portfolio and talk about, for job interviews and stuff like that. So please be open to weighing in on that. All right. Well, do we have any proposed agenda items for March 16th other than the ARPA fund update? That's one that I would like to, and I'd really like to find out as much as I can between now and then, prior to 2 months from now, because my understanding was that they were going to have to start spending, or at least, finalizing plans for spending those funds fairly soon. I don't know what the exact deadline was, but any other proposed agenda items for March?
I'd love to hear an update on the raise grant projects, whether they were sort of in planning, design, or I know some of them were almost at the point of, being able to be let for construction. So I'd appreciate an update on where those were at. We went through a lot of effort as a city and members of this committee when it was formerly the Bicycle and Pedestrian Advisory Committee to write letters in support of it and to prepare that application. And several of those projects have really important transformative impacts potentially, especially for some of the communities in Greenville that maybe have been left out of the discussion around bicycle and pedestrian facilities or transit. And so I'd like to hear where those are at. I know things kind of got thrown into chaos with the pandemic. A lot of that planning and some of the timelines around that had to happen then. But I raise that because with the new infrastructure bill, there's going to be new competitive grant programs that are out for consideration. Arsena, you might be interested to hear some of them relate to healthy streets, which relates to sort of active transportation for health purposes. But so our performance on these, all the projects are sort of competitively selected, but as a community, it will be well received if we're hitting the deadlines on those build grants projects, or the raise grants, I guess they were called. So I'd appreciate an update on that.
You threw me off there by saying raise because I remember the build grants that was like 15 million that we got on that one. But are they calling it something different now?
Dude, there are people that call them Tiger grants because it was the Tiger program before it was the Build program, before it was the Waze program. It'll get a new abbreviation with the next administration.
Everybody likes to put their own things and stuff.
Yeah.
Is that in line with, you requested some information about the complete streets? That was tied in with that though, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's in my email, and I think it was too late for us to even be able to get it into this. But so, but it's the same. It's that same request. Just reiterating that request. The other thing I would ask is we haven't had a representative from the police department. I would love to hear an update because we learned, I think it was a couple meetings ago, about the flex post delineator projects that they've been installing around town to control left turns in particular safety locations. I think it was maybe a bit eye-opening for the chief of police when we counted off 44 consecutive driveways on a quarter-mile stretch of road as potential locations to try and control those left turns. I would love to hear an update on whether or not any new locations have been proposed, and if so, what the status of those installations are. It's a really important and easy way to make our streets safer for everyone, cars included.
I hope Don's getting all this because I can't keep up with all the words you're saying.
I will send an email, man.
Okay, cool. Yes.
Just as a side note, I live off of Thomas Langston and they put one at South Bend because of Ridgewood. They still shoot through there to make that left turn. One of the prongs was completely knocked out onto the street this week. So
yeah, they're not perfect, but they make a difference. I know exactly what you're talking about. I've seen it. People will always try and game the system. You can't prevent it 100%.
All right, we've got a few agenda items for March 16th, which is going to be our next meeting. Anyone else would like to add anything? Okay. All right, can I get a motion to adjourn?
I'm off mute. So
I make a motion that this meeting be adjourned. This is Dion Evans.
Dion Evans made a motion.
Second.
And Bob Edwards made a second. All in favor? Aye.
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 Andrew Denton, aye.